Welcome to Full Focus. I'm Gloria Penner. San Diego County is home to more Indian tribes and more tribal casinos than any other place in the state. On Monday, the governor signed a deal with the leaders of 5 Indian nations, which could make California the gaming capital of the nation, while pumping a healthy piece of Indian gaming wealth into California's coffers. It's a trade-off: unlimited slot machines for the tribes in exchange for giving the state $1 billion up front next year and up to $200 million a year in revenues each coming year. Governor Schwarzenegger sees the gambling compact as a win-win-win for the state and local governments and the tribes.
This new agreement respects the tribes' sovereignty, it protects the exclusive gaming rights, and it begins a new financial partnership between the tribes, the local communities, and the state of California. This agreement will also help governments meet their law enforcement, fire protection, and infrastructure needs, especially for the local governments. It will strengthen our environmental protections. It provides more rights and safeguards for the workers and the guests. It brings at least $1 billion of additional state revenue for this year, which I, of course, will dedicate to desperately needed transportation projects. And in addition, this agreement can generate and will generate between $150 and $200 million a year in ongoing state revenue, which is important for California. This is a fair deal for the tribes and for our state.
3 of the participating tribes are based in San Diego: the Paula Indian and the Pauma Band of Mission Indians from North County and the Viejas Band of Kumeyaay Indians in East County. At the signing ceremony in Sacramento, there were handshakes and a ceremonial exchange of gifts between governor and tribal leaders. Anthony Pico, chairman of the Viejas tribe, took the podium to declare the new gaming deal a great victory for everyone involved.
Schwarzenegger, I am so honored to be standing here with you today. Your government and mine have much in common, and hopefully today all Californians will recognize this. We share an investment in the economic progress of California. Our government gaming business and other enterprises will only thrive when California thrives. We also
Even before the state legislature and the U.S. Department of Interior ratified the new compacts, other tribes are seeking to cut their own deals with the governor. Joining me to talk about the future of Indian gaming for the San Diego tribes and the state are John Currier, tribal chairman for the Rincon Band; Larry Stidham, gaming lawyer for the Pauma tribe; and David Ross, who writes about Indian gaming as editor of the Roadrunner Newspaper. Gentlemen, welcome. And before we begin our conversation, I'm going to spend a few minutes with Vince Solito, the governor's deputy press secretary, who is with us by phone. Vince Solito, I'm so glad that you could be with us. Thank you very much.
Happy to be with you, Gloria, and your viewers. Good evening.
Good evening. And I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, how will the $1 billion from these 5 tribes be used to relieve the state's budget crisis?
Well, as you know, the compacts that the governor just signed with a number of Indian tribes earlier this week have 2 main areas of money: a $1 billion one-time payment and recurring annual revenues. The $1 billion payment you reference, the governor would like to put towards transportation, which he believes has been a woefully neglected budget item and, frankly, a very core responsibility of the state government.
So does that mean then that none of that money will go to relieve the budget problems that we see forthcoming in now or in the 2005 budget, 2004-2005 budget?
Well, again, there will be, as you know, there's a significant deficit in the current budget as a result of overspending the last few years.
Right.
The compacts that the governor just signed include both a $1 billion one-time payment and ongoing recurring revenue that the governor expects could be up to $150 to $200 million based on licensing fees for the new slot machines the casinos may add. And in fact, that number could increase if additional tribes come on board. So the governor expects that those funds will go directly into the general fund to help balance the budget. But the one-time money he really believes should be put into capital investments such as infrastructure like transportation.
Okay. So what does the governor see? I mean, how does the governor see local governments winning in this deal? I mean, I heard him say it's a win-win situation or win-win-win. The tribes win, the state wins, and the local governments win.
Well, the governor certainly believes that, and it really is true. It's important to realize where things were when the governor was elected. The tribes in California had 20-year compacts where they contributed no money to the state's general fund to help with our budget crisis. And while they were asked to talk to and work with localities, there really was no way to force resolution. And so many local communities felt that they were not given a proper seat at the table and had no way to enforce whatever agreements they thought they had made. The governor was very insistent that the agreements that he has reached here and would like to reach additional ones have both a monetary side and a non-monetary side. The governor would like to see a fair contribution to the state, but also would like to see guarantees and enhanced protections for local communities, the environment, workers, and patrons. As far as local communities are concerned, the question you asked, the compacts the governor signed with 5 tribes on Monday require tribes to prepare an environmental impact report for all new projects and expansions and modifications that they're considering. And then upon that, they need to list all the various impacts they expect these projects will have. And then it instructs them to sit down and negotiate with the local communities that are affected to negotiate how to compensate for those impacts and the increased demand for services that the locality will have to provide.
But Vince, is that a binding situation? I mean, will those negotiations be required to come out with some kind of a solution?
As a matter of fact, yes. In the event that the tribe and the locality are unable to agree on and reach a negotiated settlement, the tribes have agreed to go to binding arbitration in which both the tribe and the locality would present a neutral arbiter with their best offer, and there would be a binding agreement reached that the community and the tribe would have to abide by.
Okay.
This is a major step forward. This is something that did not occur in the last compacts.
There's another area that's creating some concern. Does the governor have a concern that these 5 tribes with a monopoly, virtual monopoly on unlimited slots, are gaining an unfair advantage against other gaming tribes and other gambling interests such as card rooms and racetracks?
Well, that's 2 questions. The last question, yes. In fact, the people of California have voted repeatedly that they believe that California's Indian tribes on their reservations should have gaming, and that's where it should be. They have not expressed an interest in expanding gaming outside of reservations.
We only have a couple of seconds left, so...
Sure. Regarding other tribes, the governor would like all tribes to join him in this deal and contribute to the recovery of the state. He's pleased that the tribes that on Monday signed compacts have volunteered to do so. He wishes other tribes would take that opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, Vince Alito, and we do have someone who heads up another tribe with us today, so we'll ask him about that. Thanks again, Vince.
Happy to be with you.
Okay, gentlemen, so I'd like to turn to you now and get your reaction to what it is that the Deputy Press Secretary had to say. What do you think about that, Larry?
Well, I think his description of what's in the new amended compacts is accurate, and I think from the Pauma's perspective, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to work with the governor. We wanted to look at a way that we could get more devices, and we wanted to, expand our project. So we're comfortable with what he had to say.
Okay, David.
Well, I think the one thing that he mentioned that's absolutely true is that they expect there to be more tribes to get on board with this. Not just if it was only going to be the 5 tribes that they signed compacts with, it wouldn't do that much good for the state. But I think there's going to be pressure on a lot of tribes to come with new compacts.
Pressure from where?
Well, competitive pressure and pressure to, at least the larger tribes that want to have more than 2,000 slot machines. I mean, not everybody is interested in that.
Okay, now, David, John, you were one of the tribes that resisted this. So what did you think about the governor's approach and what the Deputy Press Secretary had to say?
Well, obviously this compact works for some tribes. It certainly doesn't work for all tribes, and definitely does not work for the Rincon Band. To have unlimited slots at this point in time so closely after the 1999 compacts puts tribes like Rincon, who implemented a compact, had to spend a lot of money to implement the barriers to entry back in 1999 that were put in front of us, at a disadvantage to tribes who've been in gaming for 13 years or so.
So you're not even going to consider joining this kind of a compact where you could now have unlimited slots?
We will consider and continue to negotiate with the state of California if they're willing to negotiate in good faith. Unfortunately, they haven't been doing that. As a matter of fact, the press secretary made a comment that the Rincon Band had numerous discussions with the state of California, and this was not true. We met with them individually on June 4th. I've only had one meeting with them. We do have another meeting on July 1st. We hope to advance our concerns in that meeting.
Interesting that he would use the word numerous under those circumstances. Absolutely. Larry, sort of fill us in. What is it that unlimited slot machines is going to mean to the Pauma tribe that you represent?
Well, I don't think it's so much the idea that it's unlimited. What it does is allow us to actually meet the market needs. And from Pauma's perspective, the idea of building a 5,000 machine operations, not in the cards. What we're really looking at is being able to react to the market. This is really an ever-changing type situation. And what we wanted to be able to do is to go over the 2,000 machine level if we needed to do that. I'm not saying that we do at this point, but I imagine just like everybody else, we're going to start out slowly. And we're going to look at being able to go over that amount if we need to.
So this sounds like insurance against the future. I mean, it doesn't sound to me as though the tribe needs more slots.
I think we do need more slots.
Oh, you do?
For Pauma, we're a small operation at this point. We have 750 machines, and we've entered into an agreement with Caesars. So we're going to be building a brand new facility. We're going to want to be able to address the market concerns of that new facility, and that requires us to get more slots.
Okay, so you do need the new slots.
Yes. The idea of unlimited is sort of, misleading. It's not that you could go out and get 6,000 machines, because that's not your market. That's not going to be our market. It's going to be a much smaller situation than that. So that the idea that every tribe can go out and get 5,000 or 6,000 machines or whatever, huge amounts is just not reality in terms of the market.
But it could happen.
It's theoretically possible, but very unlikely. There are a very small number of tribes.
Do you agree with that, that we may not see that much of an expansion because it seems unrealistic for the tribes to just go out and put in 6,000 slot machines?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's market driven, and each of the tribes and the casinos know how many machines they can put in and still be making a profit.
But once the market starts growing, which it will, more people aware. I mean, we're talking about California poised to become the gambling capital of the nation, if not the world.
Well, it was already going to do that.
It was.
Yes. I think that the numbers were pointed that way before any of this came along. And I think it just, expands and accelerates. There was a columnist in TheStreet.com who called it the new gold rush, the new California gold rush this morning. And I think that's absolutely true.
Well, go ahead, finish what you were saying.
It's absolutely true. It's going to be kind of phase 2 of a gold rush that began in the year 2000. I mean, the Indian gaming is right now the only industry in California that's actually expanding in this economy.
Well, then, just to follow up what you were saying before, if there's going to be an expansion of Indian gaming, and we are probably going to be the capital of gambling in the nation, if not the world, won't we see those thousands of slots coming just to fill the market need?
Well, but it has to be timed correctly. I mean, each of the I'm sure that John would agree that you never say never, that someday they may want more than 2,000 slot machines. It's just right now it's not economically feasible for them.
Do you just plan for now, or do you plan for the future?
You always plan for the future, but you must take a step at a time. That's what we've done in the past. In 1999, there was 4,000 machines between the 3 East County tribes and the Riverside tribe, Pechanga. Today, there's 14,000 machines with 9 tribes. So we've went 350% growth in machines from 1999 to today. Any kind of significant growth like that to continue is not going to have tribes like Rincon and some of the others needing 2,500 to 3,000 machines. If some of the other players who are closer to the freeways go to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 machines, then the tribes who are new into the game and the tribes that have the disadvantaged locations and the tribes who could not get into gaming back in 1991 through 1995 as the U.S. Attorney gave special advantages to other tribes over our interest, we're at a disadvantage. And so we think that the compact was geared up to have a limit, which was 2,000, to make it more easier to bring about parity, which is the screaming words that we talked about in 1999.
Okay, well, here's what Chairman Pico of the Viejas tribe had to say about the economic impact of Indian gaming.
We have a new partnership with the state, but a continuing partnership with San Diego County. As I mentioned before, our gaming revenues support our tribal governments, and for every $1 that we take in, only 30% is used for our tribe. We build roads, we build sewer treatment plants on our reservations, we diversify our businesses for this 30%. For the Viejas Band, this includes the Borrego Springs Bank and our beautiful outlet center. We operate fire departments, clinics and daycare centers and senior centers. We operate our schools, we provide health care and college tuition for our people. Every adult member in the Viejas Band who wants a job and upward mobility and employment has that opportunity. Our government budget is 30% of the net that we collect. The other 70% circulates throughout the region. Put it this way, for every $1 that we take in, the other 70% benefit the San Diego economy. In 2002, the Viejas tribal government and the business contributed more than $210 million right back into the economy, where it generated jobs, sales, state and local taxes.
Aside from the economics of the situation, Larry, we've been hearing about guarantees that protect the future of tribal members. What kind of guarantees are we talking about here?
Well, I think you're touching on the exclusivity aspect of this, which was one of the principal reasons that the Pauma tribe, in addition to getting the machines, wanted to get into this agreement.
Explain what that is quickly.
And what that means is that you have this current initiative, you have non-Indians, racetracks, card rooms that want to operate slot machines.
Right.
What we bargained for very, very vigorously with the governor is that if that were to occur under these new compacts, we'd have the right, if we do a bond, to seek conjunctive relief. And if we don't have a bond, that those payments that we're making now drop off if that would occur. That was absolutely vital to us.
Doesn't that sound appealing to the Rincon tribe? I mean, the idea of exclusivity, goodbye card rooms, goodbye racehorse tracks from being competitors to yours.
Well, the most interesting part for Rincon in regards to that is the impairment part of it, because the Rincon's lawsuit talks about impairment and the fact that the 1999 compacts had 20 years. And we feel that if these new compacts impair the state of California for delivering on what they were supposed to the Rincon Band, that we have an impairment claim ourselves. So it's interesting that they took the part to go into an impairment for protection of exclusive. I don't know what you mean by
impairment. I'm sorry.
It means preventing the contract to be able to be carried out by basically something interfering with that. Then the contract can't proceed as it was intended. We were intended to have 20 years under the 1999 compact with basically the parameters or the framework that was in that compact.
I see.
And so it's interesting that they've used this impairment portion for their own protection for exclusivity.
But what the current compact has in it is that, you know what you get if there's an impairment of that right? You get to go back to uncompacted Class 3 gaming, which means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that the idea now is that we've expanded that exclusivity that says we get the Class 3 games, the slot machines, we get the card games that we've had before, and if you interfere with that state, we have these remedies that we've never had before. That's a major improvement.
Okay, well, obviously there's disagreement among the tribes, David. I mean, you can see that happening. What will be the fallout of disagreement among the tribes on gaming?
Well, I don't know what the fallout will be, but I think that there was really only one time when there was a monolithic tribal monolithic tribal position on gaming, and then that was in 1999-2000, and then after that, the different tribes had different interests, and they fell into their the different areas that interested them. The larger tribes that immediately pushed up to 2,000 slot machines have a different interest from tribes like Rincon that are at, I believe, 1,600, or there's a couple of dozen tribes that only have 500 slot machines or 750 slot machines. So it's natural that they would, once they got the initial right to have gaming, that they would break up into other factions.
Yeah, and this really is all part, I would think, of the fact that the tribes are sovereign nations. They're individual nations, and they really each can follow their own way. But one thinks of Indian gaming as a whole, not as a divisive kind of thing.
Well, the Rincon would like to think of it more as a whole, and we think that if the governor would have brought all tribes together, more tribes together, kind of like back in 1999, so more interests could have been expressed, they might have found a way to find a way to better the state's interest, to better majority of tribes' interest. I think you would have kept a lot more unity. As a matter of fact, you could have had 10 tribes with 500 machines going up to 2,500 at $12,000 per annual, which could have funded a $500,000 bond. And so there was a lot of other ways to be creative. You just needed to bring more players in, to include them in the discussion and take them serious, and not just go to the easy route, which was to go the tribes that had the immediate need. And they basically used all the leverage against the tribes that had either needed a lot of machines because they have the great markets, or the tribes that unfortunately have not been able to get up to 2,000 machines because the state says there's a limited number of machines in California allowed. And the Rincon Band is litigating on that issue. As that's resolved, other tribes that want to get up to 2,000 will be able to go there.
Well, because each Indian tribe is a sovereign nation, they are each free to pursue individual agreements with the state. And here's what Chairman Pico had to say on that issue.
Thanks to the leadership of the governor and the leadership of the tribal governments here with us today, we have been able to negotiate an agreement that recognizes and respects both mutual governmental and business responsibilities. It's been a hard road to educate people that tribes are governments. The recognition has come slowly and only a result of gaming. Unfortunately, our education system has failed to teach the simple civic lessons that there are three sovereigns in America: the federal government, the state governments, and tribal nations.
So one wonders how competitive the non-Indian gaming interests are to the tribes, Larry. I mean, what concerns do you have about this? Do they eat potentially into your revenues?
They're not competitive now, and they won't be unless this initiative passes. I mean, what this does is the gaming devices, what we call the Class 3 machines, are the key to this. That's recognized in the initiative, so that as long as that initiative doesn't pass, and as long as the governor honors his promise to campaign against it, we'll be fine.
You know, in the minute or so that's left, David, I want to bring up what's going to be on the November ballot. That really needs a whole program into itself. It's going to be a measure sponsored by non-Indian card games and horse racing tracks that would let them run slot machines. There's a second measure sponsored by some other tribes that would remove all restrictions on tribal gambling and allow Las Vegas-type gambling in California. If either were to pass, what would it mean to the new compacts that have just been signed by the 5 tribes?
They would be obviated. They would not be enforced. In fact, these initiatives are really the ace in the hole for Governor Schwarzenegger in making these compacts to begin with, because they gave him the clout to be able to get the tribes that agreed to it to agree to it, because if they didn't, then he was in a position to endorse one or more of those initiatives.
Okay, you get the last 30 seconds, John. What do you think about those initiatives? In support of them?
We're against the initiatives. They're not good for Indian country. They're not good for none of us. And they lied to the state of California. They lied to the voters. They said that all tribes would have to agree this 25%. It was completely undoable. There's no way in the world that tribes could agree to give up 40-60% of their net revenues or better in order to keep the initiative from not passing.
Okay, thank you very much, John Currier, Larry Stidham, and David Ross.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for tonight's Full Focus. For more on this topic, please visit our website at kpbs.org. And we enjoy hearing from you. Write to us at the address on the screen. And tune in again tomorrow night when we talk about Iraq, the war on terror, and what went wrong with American intelligence with the former Inspector General of the CIA, Fred Hitz. For KPBS, I'm Gloria Penner. Good night.